Hey crafters, just a reminder, this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and should not be considered advice.
The views and opinions expressed are our own, and do not represent those of any company or business we currently work with, are associated with, or have worked with in the past. Thanks for tuning in to the Futurecraft Marketing Podcast. Let's get it started.
Hey there, welcome to the Futurecraft Marketing Podcast, where we're exploring how AI is changing all things from brand to demand. I'm Ken Roden, one of your guides on this exciting new journey.
And I'm Erin Mills, your other co-host, and together we're here to unpack the future of AI in marketing. We're going to share some insights, test the latest technology, interview industry pioneers, and talk to folks doing really cool things. So Ken, what cool things have you been up to?
I tried giving ChatGPT a role to play in a specific conversation that I was looking to have with a stakeholder. The setup was I am pitching this program or idea, and this stakeholder has a specific perspective given their role and their level. And I asked ChatGPT to give me objections as well as help me have the right vocabulary and set the right tone in presenting the program to this individual. And it probably be pretty well for the conversation.
That's really cool. I think as marketers, alignment is one of the key things that we have to focus on. Did you change your language, or did you use those objections to craft your message up front? What were some of the key takeaways there?
Yeah, I think the two biggest were how I teed up the conversation. I think the biggest change that I made was the opening that I had for this particular stakeholder. I was able to get in front of some of the objections that they were going to have. And then at the end, I was able to address some of the topics in an addendum that had more of the analytical aspects of the program I'm trying to launch, so that their questions could be at least answered in the right direction. I didn't have all the answers, but it made me feel more confident going into the conversation. And it made me feel more prepared, and I was more prepared. What about you? What have you been doing with AI recently?
One fun one that I did recently is my beau is going to Pinehurst, and very tough golf courses. They're assume that you're Tiger Woods in your prime, and you're playing Pinehurst number 2. Give me a strategy for each hole. And it was really cool because it actually gave the off the tee and the approach shot and all the things that golfers care about. There's apps that also help. I love 18 Birdies, but this was another level of really being able to dive into a strategy. So I think the future is caddies are going to have ChatGPT in their pockets and be able to leverage those insights that are out there, which is cool.
Yeah, I'm always curious when we're talking to our partners about AI, because we spend so much time thinking about it. When we're like, hey, I found this thing that's relevant to you, are they like, what are you doing? I don't care. Or do they find value in it?
I think it's an evolution, right? I think it's just going to continue to evolve. I was reading a quote the other day where it's AI is as rudimentary and unembedded as it will ever be in our lifetimes. And that's kind of an interesting thing to think about. So just scaling up from there. One of the things I think that is really cool in our next conversation with Liza Adams, we're going to get into, is really about how to get people to adopt. And whether it's in our personal life or at work, I think one of the things that's really interesting is this hesitation for some folks to embrace AI and how to get started, but how to really create the guardrails where people feel comfortable to use it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm really curious to hear what she thinks about the change management aspect, but also how to get different types of people involved in the conversation, because individual contributors, managers are different types of people and might be using AI differently. So I can't wait to hear what she has to say.
And one thing that's really interesting about Liza and her practice is she was not just focusing on marketing. Obviously, she has a focus there. But I think one of the things that some of us are struggling with is really how to get widespread adoption at our organizations. And is there an opportunity for marketing to take the lead on that? Because there's so many use cases, obviously, within marketing, but how do we create a broader strategy? And that's what I'm really excited to get into.
Yeah, I think it'll be great. And so we'll be back.
Hi, today we're joined by a visionary leader
Liza Adams. Liza has over 2 decades of experience in steering businesses and marketing teams through pivotal industry changes. And as a co-founder at Growth Path Partners, she spearheaded the adoption of responsible AI through a practical 3-step AI adoption accelerator approach. This includes interactive workshops, strategic planning, and hands-on guidance in AI operations. And she's an influential voice in AI. I always wait for her posts to come out, learn something every time I see something. She is recognized at G2's Reach event and recently been named one of the 50 CMOs to watch in the 2024 by Pavilion. Congratulations, Liza, by the way. She brings a wealth of knowledge from initiating machine learning efforts in 2010 to today's cutting-edge generative AI technologies. And alongside her role at Growth Path, she serves as fractional CMO, consultant, and advisor, a woman of very many talents with a focus on growth strategies and global brand building across various sectors. Liza's mission here is to leverage AI to make business more profitable while positively impacting society and fostering inclusive growth. Liza, such a pleasure to have you on the show, and thank you for joining us.
Delighted to be here, Erin and Ken. So excited to be doing this.
All right, let's just dive in. So, Liza, you've been at the forefront of guiding companies through their AI journey. What initially drew you to helping companies focus and adopt generative AI?
Yes, I've always had a passion for elevating the strategic value of marketing. I think in our craft and in our field, there's so much focus on the campaigns, the ads, events, the emails, basically the beautiful and effective things that we do, the very visual things that we do. But I think people tend to forget all of the really hard work that happens to deeply understand markets, to understand customer behaviors, get some customer insights, do the strategic work around segmentation and targeting and positioning and messaging, understanding how people buy with our preferences, right? And we need to have a good pulse on the market before we can do these great campaigns, right? I'll talk to many people. I always say, just like we can't out-exercise a bad diet, we can't out-campaign a bad product market fit. So this passion for the voice of the customer, deeply understanding the market, being so strategic that it is incumbent on marketers to be that voice of the customer and not relinquish that power, right, is what drove me to AI. Because largely in the past, when it comes to research and doing customer surveys or customer interviews, people are like, oh, we don't need that. It's going to take a long time, all sorts of things, right? But now with AI, it allows us to really get a pulse on the market almost instantaneously, depending on how you're rolling this out, right? Yeah. We can get a lot more insight, lots more data is available at our fingertips. And as AI advances and personalization becomes more prevalent, we can get deeper into that customer. It's not just about segments like verticals or roles. It's now about actual human beings, right? So it's Erin, it's Ken, right? So my passion for AI really stemmed from elevating marketing from a strategic perspective. Plus, I'm also just very passionate about using business as a force for good. And I know that AI is here to impact the world. And I want to ensure that it makes an impact for the betterment of humanity rather than harms it.
I love that. I think especially as marketers, there oftentimes is that focus around the tactics and campaigns. And those are all wonderful, but it's really about how do you fit those together to drive strategic business decisions. One of the things I love that you've done is develop that 3-step AI adoption accelerator approach, because I think it helps people to grasp that more strategic vision of adopting AI. Can you talk us through the methodology and how it addresses some of the unique challenges in marketing?
Yeah, the reason I came up with that, and by the way, I love frameworks, right? Because it simplifies many things. I came up with it because there's just this challenge that we have as marketers. We're so busy. We're constantly doing so many things, from strategy to campaigns to metrics to board meetings and all sorts of things, that it became almost daunting to really lean into AI and start adapting and adopting. And for us marketing leaders, it's not just about ourselves. It's also caring about the people on our teams because it's helping them upskill and reskill and investing in their careers, right? As I thought about how to help people through that change, I thought about this 3-step process because this is not just about technology. Technology is absolutely one part of it, but for the most part, I believe that this is change management. Yeah. And it's largely about the people, right?
Yeah.
Just any kind of change is hard. If you've been doing things for many, many years, and then now there's this new innovation that you need to learn, you need to somehow be able to upskill and find some passion to go do it. And I always tell people it is as if OpenAI dropped off a bunch of really powerful Lego pieces at our doorstep in November 2022. Unfortunately, it didn't have a box with a picture nor instructions for what to build, right? So with no best practices and no instructions, it's like, how do we do change management, right? People don't even know what to do with this thing. We go into ChatGPT and we see a conversational box and we're supposed to just start typing. So back to your question on this 3-step process, I was like, I think the first step should be inspiration. Inspire us for what is possible, right? Because that's what a Lego box does. When it shows a picture at the back of what the end product is, it's an inspiration of what you can build. There's other things that you can build, but here's one thing that you can build. So that first step of the process is really inspiring people. And generally in marketing, I feel like they get more inspired if you can come up with 2 or 3 use cases by function, not general capabilities of ChatGPT or Gemini or some AI capabilities of HubSpot, but actual use cases by function, right? So product marketing, they're probably going to be interested in a competitive analysis or segmentation and targeting. Brand and comms, they're probably interested in thought leadership, brand and voice. Demand generation, they're going to be interested in how to personalize campaigns and how to create experiences that are more personalized along that journey. And then digital marketing, lots of work there that AI can really influence, right? How now do we make ourselves relevant to these AI assistants so that our brand, our products, and our content are actually cited and referenced in ChatGPT, in Gemini, in Claude, in Perplexity, right? That's a whole different ballgame that digital marketers now need to think about. So once they see how AI can help them with their work in these types of use cases, that's inspiration. Then their mind goes, oh, I didn't realize I could do that. So that's just step 1. But Ken and Aaron, it's not a one and done, right? Change management is not like, okay, we're done. This is like a lather, rinse, repeat kind of process. So the second step is, how do we pick a set of use cases? Because we can't do everything, right? Yeah. I always believe in the think big, start small, move fast. Okay, what's our start small? Maybe it's a handful of use cases. Maybe it's a dozen of use cases. And let's pick the most important ones, the ones that we feel will have the biggest impact to the business. And my thought is, let's align those to strategic initiatives. So as marketing leaders, we always have 3 to 5 strategic initiatives, right? Let's choose those use cases, start mapping them to the strategic initiatives. And the reason why I was suggesting that is anything attached to a strategic initiative typically gets an owner. It has timelines. It has a goal. It has some performance metrics. It has a budget. It has resources. Then we have a bigger likelihood that people are going to do something with it. They're going to adopt it, and they're going to make sure that it gets done on time. They're going to use the tools, and they're going to ask for budget, all sorts of things, right? So that in and of itself just gives us a better shot at getting adoption driven. The last thing is really, this is not just about experimentation, not just about piloting. We need to ultimately expand and scale it across the business, or even just to start within marketing, right? It can't be Wild West where everybody's cleaning their own data. Everybody has their responsible AI principles. So that third step, while it's the third one, it's super important to do it fairly quickly as well, because there's certain things that we need to do, like having an AI council where you have a cross-functional team that thinks about the responsible use of AI, right? So for what use cases will we use AI for? What do we consider confidential? How do we redact information? What tools do we need? Those types of things, right? And there's questions around the MarTech stack. What do we need to do on the market? Or do we just buy every single AI tool out there for $20 a month? Or do we leverage what we have? How do we integrate these things? And then data is a huge part of this, right? We got Salesforce data, HubSpot data, Power BI data. Like, how do we take these things and make it available for everybody such that it's already in a format that is easily consumable by the AI tools? So then there we also need to involve IT and legal and all sorts of things. So anyway, that's a huge third step. And that third step is really all about AI ops. So it's really inspiration with use cases. Second thing is aligning use cases to strategic initiatives. So that's your AI strategy. And then the last one is AI operations.
I love the idea of just packaging this into a framework that people can break it down into chunks. I like that, the mentality of just do small, implement quickly, see if it works, and keep going. We've been talking to a lot of marketers, and there's a little bit of resistance in even getting into this. What are some of the common hurdles that B2B marketers might face when trying to implement this at their company that they should be aware of?
Yeah, so I always talk about Paul Reitzer's law of even AI distribution. And what that really means is the value that you get out of AI depends on your understanding, your access, and your acceptance of it, right? Understanding, regardless of where you are in the spectrum of truly believing in AI, you're going to lean in to, I fear AI is going to take my job. I'm not going to touch that thing, right? I think there needs to be some level of understanding so that you can make decisions for yourself, for your family, society, and the world, right? That part of it, the understanding part of it, is, I think, something that we all just need to embrace. Do a little bit of something so that we understand, like, ignorance is bliss, but this is one of those transformations where a little bit of understanding will do you wonders, right? The second thing around your access to it, anyone who's on the free version of ChatGPT today can't even fathom what the possibilities are with AI, right? So at the very least, do 1 month of GPT-4, $20, right? Couple lunches, right? You can do a couple lunches or maybe one lunch in New York City.
Pick up a coffee.
Coffee, whatever it is now, right? And just try it, right? So I think there's this, when people say, I'm only on the free version, you can't browse the web. You can't see images. You can't upload files. It can't do a lot of the analysis that is possible. When people say, oh, it's not really that helpful, my next question is, what are you using? Right? If it's the free version, try the $20 a month just for 1 month and then just see what's possible, right? And then the last part of Paul Reitzer's law is your acceptance of it. And acceptance basically says you have to feed AI some things, some data to get something back, right? If you don't feed it a lot of things and you just allow it to browse the web, you're going to get very general data. But if you give it first-party data, customer interviews, redact it, or you have some performance data that's not confidential, then the results are more tailored for you, right? So I think people need to understand that. So people are in different spectrums right now with their understanding, with their access. Some companies are not allowing the use of AI. So if they don't have access, then that's a problem, right? And I'm not on either camp. There are some industries that are like, we're not doing that for the following reasons, and they have their own reasons, right? And then people certainly are in different ends of the spectrum on their acceptance of it, right? When we go into agentive AI, where it's about AI that now does things on our behalf rather than just answers our questions, Heck, okay, will I allow it to sign me up for a webinar? Maybe. Great. Awesome. But will I allow it to book all of my travel and excursions internationally in a developing nation? I'm not sure I'm ready for that, right? Or file my taxes or whatever it is, right? I think part of this thing is it is a journey. People need to trust, and our level of trust will be different, and we need to be super empathetic and compassionate for wherever people are in this journey.
Yeah. You mentioned the aspect of some companies and industries or maybe over here that they're maybe embracing AI, and then there's some over here who are maybe saying we're not doing it. I know you've worked with a lot of different companies and different sizes and industries. What differences are you seeing, and how is that playing out to their implementation of AI?
I haven't seen one that's completely on one end of the spectrum or the other that I've worked with, right? A lot of the companies that I work with are in the middle.
Yeah.
They're more accepting of AI in some use cases and not accepting of AI in other use cases, which is fine because you do have to start somewhere, right? And then as you gain trust and as you get better performance and technology advances, then I think these companies will start to expand their use of AI. So yesterday or the day before, there was an announcement from OpenAI and Moderna, the COVID shot company, where Moderna has 100% adoption of AI in their company, and they have over 400 GPTs that are being used in the company, right? I'm like, wow, that's crazy. So they're like getting hey, we're leaning in. This is our future. They're actually saying, hey, it would take maybe 100,000 people to do the work, but now they can do the work and scale with 6,000 people, right? So the companies that are adopting this think big, starting small, moving fast. And I think it will begin to expand as we gain more trust. And on the trust piece, I think people want to know a little bit more about how these models are trained, a little bit more transparency on what data is being used, security, and those types of things. Then we'll get a little bit more sophisticated about the implementation. The other thing that's not being talked about is implications on jobs, right? Great, lots of experimentation, but how does it change the way people work, and how do we organize, and then what about the roles, right? So I think companies are beginning to think about that, not necessarily from a layoff perspective, but being able to do more with the people that they currently have today.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point. And you made a couple of points there where one is giving grace to those folks that are just starting out or not yet comfortable. I was talking to a leader the other day who was saying something around, it's not giving me anything. It's not giving me anything good. And to your point, you're like, what are you using? Oh, the free version of ChatGPT, and you don't know how to prompt it. So you're like, let's talk through that. And I think as you think about jobs evolving, what are you seeing, or what advice would you give to marketing leaders who are still deciding how to integrate, what to integrate into their strategy? What are some of the things that you might tell them?
There's some really easy ones, right? So the most typical ones, Erin, are AI is known to help with blogs. They use it for blogging or to create a blog, or they use it to help with an email or grammar, or they use it to create an image for a post, those kinds of things. And what I oftentimes tell people is start expanding your thinking beyond that. Right? There's this stat that the investment in AI in sales and marketing will result in a $1.4 to $2.6 trillion of added business value, and that's a McKinsey stat. And I keep telling people, we cannot blog post our way to $2.6 trillion. There's not enough blog posts in the world that will get us $2.6 trillion.
Oh, I love that.
So the other things that I think marketers need to think about are ideation and collaboration. Like, you can actually use these AI assistants as thought partners, right? Just like we're having a conversation here, I have the same kind of conversation with ChatGPT, right? Or Gemini or Claude. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect that they need to start thinking about is analytics. right? Data analysis. So I love feeding ChatGPT with just any kind of data that I find online. When I first started doing this in ChatGPT launch advanced data analysis, I found, publicly available Disney World data on ride times and wait times for each one of their rides for the last 20 years. It was publicly available, so I said, all right, upload the darn thing. And I just started asking it questions, right? Tell me, what are the top rides that generally have wait times that are about the same as their actual times? Put it in a chart for me. Then you just start seeing the possibilities, right? So that's another area. The fourth area is around automation. You can begin to automate a lot of things, so especially with GPTs, right? And then if you get a little bit more sophisticated, then you can automate things that go outside of ChatGPT or outside of OpenAI using Zapier and Make and those types of tools. And then the last thing is around personalization. You personalize things, right? Go beyond content creation. Think about using it as a thought partner for ideation, analytics and research, automation, and then finally personalization.
When you're talking about integrating AI into marketing, I think some people are like a little overwhelmed because it can be daunting and it's complex, right? Especially when you're talking about integrating like your tech stack or integrating AI into your strategies, particularly Gen AI. What advice would you give to someone who has that mindset that wants to dive in, but they're a little hesitant?
Yeah, so much is happening in the tech stack, right? You've seen the slide that shows the logos of the MarTech stack, and you can't really see anything. Can't read anything because they look like ants, right? So my guidance to people is start with what you have, right? Because even the existing tech stacks today that people have known and loved and used for many years, they all have AI capabilities, right? HubSpot has it, Sixth Sense has it, Salesforce has it, Optimizely, you name it. They all have some sort of AI capabilities. I think that is just low-hanging fruit. Times are tough, budgets are constrained. Start with what you have, right? And these MarTech vendors are so willing to talk about their AI capabilities today and the roadmap, right? So I think at the very least, start there. And then a very close second is these generative AI, more general tools like Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT Enterprise or Teams. Anything that's enterprise-oriented, begin playing with those things. And it's funny that people always ask me, how do you start? Liza, what did you do? How did you start? And I think it just requires a little bit of curiosity. And then at some point, intense curiosity. The example I gave you around, hey, I just found some Disney World data and I shoved it in there and I started asking questions. Anytime you find publicly available data, put it in there and start asking questions, right? I would ask questions of which rides are generally the most crowded in the afternoon? And it gave me an answer. I'm like, oh, wow, I could do that, right? The other thing is an easy way to start is with images as well. So take a picture of something, upload it, ask it a question about it. What is this? Right? So what do you think of this? Tell me about the colors. And then you just start seeing the power, or write me a poem about this image. I give people the example of my open pantry that I took a picture of when ChatGPT Vision came out. I took a picture of the open pantry and I put it into ChatGPT and I said, I have to cook dinner for the kids tonight. I don't have any ideas for what to cook, but this is all I have in my pantry. Can you give me 2 or 3 recipes using any of these ingredients? And it gave me recipes.
Wow.
And guess what? That was my inspiration for, oh my gosh, just think and analyze images. What if I took a picture of a side-by-side comparison of customer reviews in GD2? Will it analyze that for me? So that became the inspiration for a competitive analysis use case. And the Disney World Ride data became the inspiration for analyzing customer behaviors for campaign. So It's just even those little things that we do in our daily life, you start going, oh my gosh, I just did that. I could use that for work. So
No,
I hope that's helpful.
it is, because I think the curiosity is a skill that we need to have just in general with the way that the world is changing, and just to understand. And as marketers, having that skill set so you can uncover what you just shared, I do get worried that we don't maybe have the skills yet to prepare us. There's a skills gap growing, and it's not just the technical ability to use ChatGPT, but it's actually some of those human skills that are going to be really important. What do you think organizations can do to help bridge that skills gap for their employees? And what could an individual do?
Yeah, I think at the very least, I think three things. The tools are important, right? Because if you don't have the tools, it's like that, everything's conceptual. And this is one of those where you got to get your hands on it, right? Regardless of whether you're an analyst in the company or the CEO of the company, this is one where you actually need to hands on keyboard. Be curious enough and to get your hands on the keyboard. So I think availability of the tools is one. The second thing is it's responsible use. Yeah. I'm so big into this because used irresponsibly, it could go haywire on us, right? And when I talk about responsible use, it's what can you use it for? What we shouldn't use it for. It's like guardrails. It's like those bumper guards at a bowling alley, right? The kids will never have a gutter ball because they have bumper guards. We need bumper guards for the use of AI. And then the last thing in terms of just really getting started is this inspiration thing. Because not everybody has the curiosity.
Yeah.
Right? And like, I'm not super good at like reimagining, like those home improvement TV shows. Like you got this crappy.
Cool. So we're going to say, and we're back. Wow. Great interview with Liza. Aaron, what you think?
Yeah.
You're going to say what you thought. I'm going to say what I thought. And then I'll say for our tech review this week, for our tech review, who do we have? Who do we have? You'll say copy AI. And I'll ask you some questions.
Yeah.
Cool. Great. And we're back. That was a great interview, Aaron. What did you think about it?
I loved it. Liza is so ahead of the times and getting other foxy fucks. Okay, hold on. It's so funny because Jake has been doing editing on some of the other things, and he's, you guys have a lot of bloopers. And I was like, yeah, we do. Hi, Jake.
Hi. Thanks for doing this, man.
Bruh. Okay.
I know. I just needed a second.
Okay.
And we're back. That was a great interview with Liza. Aaron, what did you think?
I loved it. I always get so much out of Liza's presentations, and she has some really great LinkedIn posts as well. I've used a lot of her, artifacts and insight in my everyday day job. I think one of the things I thought was a little interesting was the idea of chathub.gg. Actually, I have tried that, and it's so cool. It really gives you a view of all of the different chat bots out there, and so you can compare, what do you like best? I found that Claude I like for the writing capabilities, but ChatGPT I can go a little bit deeper in terms of some of the personas that I'm building. But it's a really cool tool, so I really love that tip. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought that was a great one too. The one that really stuck out to me was towards the end when we were talking about DE&I. I just think that this is a topic that we need to be aware of. There's a bit of an ethical aspect to how AI is going to be used, but there's also an accessibility component as well. And as we're learning together, I think it's just something we should keep in the back of our head. So I really appreciated that. If you out there haven't checked out Liza Adams' LinkedIn, her content is phenomenal. She's got some great frameworks on there. So I encourage you to check them out. They will save you a ton of time and really help you get a better understanding. That was a great session.
Yeah.
Now moving on to our tech section. You're going to say yeah, and then we'll have to edit. I don't get. I think we're good, right?
We can probably cut out my...
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, yeah. It's recorded separately.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Great. For our tech review today, Aaron, who do we have in store to review?
Yeah, well, today we're taking a look at Copy AI. And this is a tool that my team's been using. So I have a little bit more experience than sort of just the coming off fresh off of the tool. And I think what's really cool about Copy AI, and again, ChatGPT Pro is the go-to, but we're talking about barriers to entry with Lisa. And I think that one of the things around adoption that can be really challenging is where to start. Copy AI gives you an opportunity of like where to start. So it gives you these like prompts that are a little bit more pre-baked. So you don't have to come up with your own, and you don't have to have sort of the background of how to prompt really well.
Interesting. And I'm curious about that because I feel like the output is only as good as the prompt that you give. So do you feel like it helps with getting started with content or headlines, or how do you use it?
Yeah, so there's those things certainly in terms of creating content and building up different assets. But I actually think one of the things that's really cool is they've got this prompt library, if you will, which I think, some of the others out there like Jasper and things of that nature have as well. But really being able to use like a jobs to be done framework. I love this one where you can actually just select jobs to be done. It gives you the prompt. You put in what you're looking for, and then the outputs are really pretty good. I think the other thing that's really cool with Copy AI is that you can, establish your brand voice. So, and you can have multiple. So if let's say you have somebody that's a certain voice in your organization, or you have your normal overall brand voice that you're using, you can actually load that up so that the responses when you're creating content or even just doing different strategies will give you the output in your brand voice. Obviously, you're still going to have to edit like any ChatGPT type or any sort of a tool where you need that human element, but it gives you a little bit more of the brand voice from the outset. The other thing I think that's really cool is you actually have this info base, and the info base will give you can upload all of different artifacts, case studies, things of that nature. And when you're thinking through different, whether it's persona building or content creation, you can actually reference the content, and you can almost use it as a CMS, which is cool. So if you're thinking about, I'm going to craft a nurture, I can actually reference the nurture pieces, and it will pull from that library that you have, which is neat.
Wow. So it can actually almost help you build your nurture by assessing what you currently have. And then it sounds like it also could help you create new content, or at least get you started. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I think it's not perfect. Like anything, it's got a little bit of duplicative functionality. So I think if your team or you're more comfortable in creating your own prompts, then ChatGPT Pro or Claude or any of the other tools out there might be a little bit better. That being said, it does give you a starting point. And I think a lot of adoption challenges coming back to really how do we get people to use it more and be comfortable with it? It just gives you that starting point, which I think is a real benefit. The outputs, if I compare apples to apples, sometimes I think that the outputs in other tools are better. But if I'm really looking at, I'm new to AI and AI in marketing, it's a really good starting point.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. You think about sometimes when we're using AI, we want the output, right? We're thinking about content creation, but sometimes we just need a place to get started, or we need to get a little bit of direction, or even to know what's possible. Do you think that this is a good tool for that?
Yeah, I think so. I'm a tough grader, so I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I think it's something worth checking out, especially if your team is new to AI. It does have some limitations. Obviously, around imagery and things like that, you're still going to have to use another tool, but it does give you a good starting point. I think for teams just getting started, it's a good option to check out.
Great. Awesome. I'm going to try Copy AI. I tried it maybe when it first came out a few years ago, but I haven't gone back. So I think it's something I'm going to dive into, and I'll be curious to see what I find. That the content management aspect is interesting to me.
Yeah, it is. And I think, sorry, we should go. I was just going to say, because Jasper does it too. I don't want us to be like too over the top of selling.
Yeah, I actually used Copy AI a few years ago, and I am curious to see how it's changed, and it sounds quite a bit. I'm especially curious about the content management aspect of that, because helping me know how to leverage the current content set I have could be helpful in just executing a little bit faster.
Yeah, totally. And I think there are other tools out there. Obviously, our tech reviews are just for entertainment purposes and how we've been using it. So it's, Try it, don't try it, whatever. Jasper does a similar thing. There are other tools out there that certainly do a similar thing, but it does help when you're able to reference the different types of assets that you have, that it really accelerates some of the content that you're able to create. A fun one. Check it out. Check out Jasper. There's certainly other ones out there. Those are the two that I've used the most, but I think that it's a good starting point.
Yeah, that's a good call out. That is a wrap for this episode. I just want to thank Liza Adams again for coming and joining us. It's always a pleasure to talk to her. And Erin, any takeaways for today?
I think we already did the takeaways.
Did we? Fuck.
Yeah, at the beginning.
Did we end this episode already?
No, we have to end it.
I know, that's what I was just trying to do.
Yeah. So
I was just asking you anything to end the day. I don't know. I was just trying to tee you up for something.
No, I don't think team you have.
Right.
So I would just say, how about you do the thank you to Liza, and thanks to everybody who's listening. Hope you had some good takeaways, and I'll do like, until next time, let's craft the future of marketing together.
Great. Okay, and that's a wrap to our episode for today. Thanks again, Liza Adams, for joining us. It was a pleasure. It always is talking to you. And thank you all for listening.
Yeah. And until next time, let's craft the future of marketing together.